Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom with your host, Bill Stierle. And, Bill, there's a lot of things going on right now, politically in our country with Democratic debates, another round of them with a lot of, it's hard to say this, but it feels like, unprecedented attacks by the president through Twitter of different people in Congress, and a lot of even infighting in Congress among the Democrats with, should they start impeachment proceedings? Should they not? And I think it's a really good time to revisit the concept of scary honesty. And as there's a lot of material that seems to relate to that going on right now. Would you agree?
I agree, Tom. It's just scary honesty is such a wonderful concept to stay after. It's really an adult narrative. It's a very mature narrative of, hey, listen, we really need to do some honesty about this, and we've got to really watch out for the counter narrative, not to sound so much like it's a power over narrative that the Democrats are going to have power over others. Because right now, regrettably, the Republicans and Trump and the different messaging from media is it's power over narrative. And when you try to, you got to fight for is not actually what a parent does all the time. Parent doesn't fight all the time. And if a parent uses too much power over language, this is, and they get stuck in, trying to fix the problem, it just gets worse. Truth gets worse. It just gets worse. It's really, really hard because you can't speak truth to a child that's an 11 or a child that's 12, or a child that's 13. They just don't have the scope, let alone when they get to 14 or 15. They don't have the language ability to really fully process, complex adult things. Adults really have to do a lot of different things at once. They can't pick. They have several choices that all of them are not the best choice. It's like, you and I as parents, we're faced with choices like, are we picking this choice? Or are we picking this choice? And it's very, very unsettling. Well,
this power over narrative you mentioned, that actually is resonating in my mind as a listener and as somebody seeing what's happening in the media lately with a lot of attacks that the president is making on Twitter of, people in Congress of color, but the language he's using, it is power over because he's trying to say, go back to the country where you came from, or your city is a rat infested mess. And the language choices he's using seem to be something I would expect to hear maybe in high school or even younger.
That's right. Yeah. I appreciate that awareness, and the awareness is that when you have a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old speaking with limited or language, what they're doing is that they're calling it like it is, but it isn't like it is. Like there's several different, there's there's a complexity in the city of Baltimore and a history in the city of Baltimore of various different challenges that the city of Baltimore has faced. And it has had trouble with its economy, police, school systems. It's had troubles with its social structure, and that trouble with the social structure is not going to be helped by a 13-year-old using the word rat infested, even though there might be a partial truth to that. One street has some trash issues. You see what I mean? It's
Right.
like, yeah, there's an adult to walk down the street, say, hey, listen, let's clean up that street. An adult would look like, say, hey, that block needs to be renovated in order to, there needs to be a plan for it, and the plan has, and it just goes to show you kind of like, if somebody, and I'm minimizing this, but it's not to minimize at all, is that if a human being is focused on building one building in a real estate, he has his hands, or his team mostly has their hands on, this is going to be next, this is what we're fixing next, this is great, the project is done, we can now open the hotel, and the owner can come down a escalator, can come down the escalator and say, what a wonderful job the team has done, and then bounce to the next building he can, rant about, or, empower people to do, or, hire contractors to finish for him. So.
Sure. And, he's clearly trying to label, the city as, completely black and white, all bad, not good at all. And in fact, Elijah Cummings' district, who is the congressman who was attacked here, part of it, one of the little towns in there is apparently one of the safest and most beautiful cities in America, or at least in the Northeast. And so, like you talked about, that power over narrative, really, putting things out of proportion with, I agree, a partial truth there. And that's that the language, it just seems like you said, 12 or 13-year-old, is really,
Every city has every city has its problems. I mean, Los Angeles has a challenge with traffic. People will agree that Los Angeles has problems with traffic and car flows. It's not the strongest city for transportation. It could have used a more vibrant, like it had with the red car years and years ago, a public transportation system. It does not. Now, what's the impact from that? The impact of that is that when the message comes out that there's traffic problems in Los Angeles, people deciding on where they would like to go to vacation. Well, I'm not going to go to Los Angeles. I heard the traffic is terrible. It's like, you'll never see the traffic, for God's sake. You'll sit on the beach, you go to a hotel, you go there, you walk out to the beach, walk back, or just have, a magical experience wherever else in Los Angeles, whether it's in Hollywood. And yes, there will be a lot of people, but a lot doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. It's just interesting, and it's part of the fabric of Los Angeles that has a multiculturally world diversity piece that, makes up its city. Anyways, so why am I telling you this story? Well, I just drove, took an Uber to the airport, and from Texas, down from Denton to Dallas, Texas, to get on a plane. And the woman talked about the traffic in Los Angeles and how she hasn't been there yet. It's
because of the traffic.
Well, it is a thorn in a person's consciousness. Now, watch how weird this is. When you call a city or a person rat infested, they cannot pull out the thought. That's the way middle schoolers think. That's the way a 11 to 13-year-old, those messages come in and stick, and they become that thing. And most media is making a complete mistake to think that he's doing this on purpose. It's worse than that. He doesn't have anything else. Let me say it one more time. There's no vocabulary to get him out of this. He cannot think differently than this. This anybody that has worked with him, and I know many people who have, he can't speak any differently like this. It's his power over narrative that he developed between the age to survive, between the age of 11 and 13, to make himself, sound bigger, where his vocabulary is not enough to get it done. Tom, the language and the vocabulary that people use really helps them. It could go in two directions. Number one, it makes them very articulate and very powerful because they have many different ways to say the same thing. It also can make them snooty and elite and blah, blah, blah. It can really push them to the worst part of being an educated person, or the worst part of being a rich person. And don't get me started on that thing. It's like, oh, now that I am rich, that gives me the opportunity to teach or to treat, people as less than. I mean, psychologically, or if I become a noble or a queen or a king, I get to be a tyrant or autocrat or, one of those elites that have a ton of money. And hey, I got a lot of money. I could do what the hell I want over here, and kind of a little bit above the law. So the scary honesty in this is that power over language is a language that's developed that, many middle school teachers say, hey, don't say that. And then the kid goes like, whoa, I went too far with the power of narrative. But what the middle school teacher doesn't know is that they've done is just put a power over narrative in their direction. Or if you just put it in a military school that that has that mindset, that that has that piece to it, what winds up happening is the person just adds that power over narrative, that adult power over narrative, to their middle school narrative. And guess what we have?
What do we have?
Tweets. We have tweets is what we have. It's what we have is tweets. We have middle school tweets.
Well, didn't it also play out similarly in 2016 when all the Republicans were jockeying for position, trying to become the Republican nominee?
Yeah. Gosh, was that a middle school, 8th grade level argument on the stage? And there was one guy, I can't remember. Oh my God, I have his face, but I can't remember his name. One of the Republican candidates, the one from Ohio, said, really, guys?
Kasich, probably.
Yes. Kasich looks at that, goes like, really? What are you guys arguing about? Because he was the only adult on the stage. He was the only adult on the stage. Everyone else is trying to swing it out in a middle school fight. And regrettably, Biden's not any different here. I'll take him out in the back, and that's exactly what I want to see is two 70-year-olds or thereabouts, older 70-year-olds swinging it out. Oh yeah, I want to see the two of them punch each other. What am I, in middle school here? Gee, right. So can we get some language? Now, is that a bad thing that Biden said that he would fight it? No. Well, if you have a bunch of middle schoolers voting for another middle schooler, the scary honesty is that, gosh, what an interesting narrative to do. It's like, no, that's not what happens is that you hit somebody and in a restaurant, you hit somebody in a grocery store, you hit somebody at a gas station, there will be law there and police there to do something about assault and battery.
Right.
There'll be somebody there. That's what that is for. Anyway, so the scary honesty as an adult narrative is not returned and will not come out of our current president, regrettably.
Well, and I appreciate that that assessment there, Bill, and I agree with you completely, because I'm reminded right now in my mind of even just this very recently, after all of the tweets and the president's attacks on Elijah Cummings and the city of Baltimore. So the president's chief of staff was being interviewed by Chris Wallace, is that his name?
Chris Wallace.
Fox News.
Yes.
And Wallace was calling him out on it. Interestingly, as you and I have talked about on past episodes, trying to argue truth with the chief of staff, which maybe again is not the best way to have a discussion about these things. But what struck me is that the chief of staff is in the position of having to defend the president's words,
right,
in tweets,
right.
And he used what you were just saying. He said, well, the president is always going to fight back, and he means fight back against Elijah Cummings, and trying to normalize and excuse the words, trying to say, oh, well, it's not a racist statement that it's, rat infested community, as he's talking about this African-American congressman. No, he's fighting back against when he attacked one of the other administration, cabinet members testifying before his congressional committee, somehow excusing this, childish language and, use of language and attacking. So that, to me, another level of scary honesty is that the president's cabinet, all of his good soldiers, if you will, that are out supporting him and trying to sometimes carry forward his message and sometimes being put in the position of having to defend his message,
they don't know what to say either. They don't know how to elevate it to an adult conversation either.
And they're definitely not even trying to elevate it to an adult conversation.
No. Yeah. See, his he could have scored points for the president, and just to give to let you know,
let's hear it.
Let you know how Mulvaney could have done that. He could have looked across and said, you know what, Elijah Cummings said that to the border person. He said to them, "Is this the best you can do? A kid that has a poopy diaper. This is, is that the best is that the best you can do?" Which is really doing having an adult conversation with another adult about changing a kid's diaper that is in a lockup center, a processing center, if we don't want to call it anything other than a processing center, is is that the best you can do? You don't have enough. Don't have enough staff to get the kid's diaper changed. You're telling me that there's not enough to do that? You guys are stuck just managing it this way. This is the best you can do. That's really what Chris Wallace could. Chris Wallace, in that dialogue with Chris Wallace, Mulvaney could have said, the president was protecting his person that is doing the best he could, and using the choice of words that he was using, was really advocating for that there needs to be changes at the border.
Right.
Now, it's not any mystery that as soon as you start becoming more difficult and more challenging and more of a place that becomes a little bit more of Trump's narrative towards immigrants. It looks like America is closing its border. You better get in here. You can't stay there. All the people that were on the fence about leaving their country of pain, leaving their country of violence, knowing that their kid was going to get stuck in either the drug war, the sex trade industry, or get killed in the military, or get recruited by the military, or get, all those, or be in poverty. All of those people that were on the fence are now coming to the United States. It's literally a sales narrative called "Take Away the Shining Hope," instead of saying, well, they don't have the courage to get there. Don't motivate them by telling them it's going away, because that's what is causing a motivation. This is your last chance to get in America, because as soon as he puts the wall up, nobody will be able to get into America. There's just a little bit more time left to still sneak in. And wow. And then all of a sudden you've got another 100,000, 200,000 people coming, and they have no idea how, that power over language impacts and motivates. It's, if you're selling a wall, you got to be ready to realize that the person that does not want the wall to be up there is going to be coming in an adversarial way, or in a way to get around that wall that you're building. So you're going to get you're not getting the people. I mean, the immigration, the biggest problem with immigration, 65% of it is people who fly into the country that have enough money, that fly in and then don't leave.
Right.
That's where the problem is. It's
overstaying their visa. Yeah.
But as soon as you say the wall, now you got all the lower income people trying to get in because they don't have the money to work the system and fly in and stay here. So that's the scary honesty. That's the way an adult talks about it. The adult talks about it. We got a problem. It doesn't, no power over. And you know what? If somebody says, Bill, you know what? It's not 65%. It's more closer to 72%. I go like, oh yeah. Well, thank you very much for that information. Correct. Not, you've got the fact wrong. It's like,
well, that's the thing. Even Chris Wallace on Fox News was, trying to argue the facts and say, isn't that a racist statement the president made? And, Dick Mulvaney is doing this tap dance around it, trying to, of course, with a straight face say, no, absolutely not. Have you seen the pictures? Have you seen the videos of this very small part of Baltimore that is in need of help? And then, but the other scary honesty is the president, it seemed to me, would rather argue about how bad Baltimore is, label it as one of the worst places in America, and yet he's the president of the United States. That's his city too. Shouldn't he be trying to do something to help fix it rather than blaming Elijah Cummings for single-handedly causing this problem in his district? And he should be dealing with that rather than annoying the president or his people about anything at the border.
Yeah, yes. And that's the adult conversation. Wow. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the target area, and let's see how we can get that targeted area to change over the next 15 to 20 years. Notice what I just say, 15 to 20 years, because that's what an adult will say. Adult would say, listen, you can't come in there with a whole crap load of money and dump it in and fix all the buildings and fix, and all of a sudden give all the people jobs and do that, because the people in that area have to be able to shift their mindset too. It's like trying to go to my 12-year-old and saying to my 12-year-old, listen, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about finances, and here's my Excel spreadsheet, and this is how taxes work. The 12-year-old is going to thin out and immediately start going, can I get back to my computer game? I mean, they're, like, Dad, I really don't want to do this now, because their mind does not have enough bandwidth to go through the complexity of things. They can't go over the troubles. They can't carry the troubles that I have. They can't, just like, I mean, many times we're electing a person to meet the person's need for respect and recognition. We're not electing the person that actually wants to be the adult to know about how to manage the process of change, the process of nation building. Our new narrative as an adult, what we are voting for is how to restart the growth of a nation. How do we restart that? And that's what an adult does, is manage the process of a growing, changing nation in a growing, changing world with a growing, changing technology that is sitting in a place that we have all other kinds of issues to keep our voice alive. Because if technology can be used for suppression very clearly right now, and now all of a sudden, I've got a suppression mindset. What's going to happen to creativity? What is going to happen to innovation? What's going to happen to people trying to go around and trying to grow rapidly? It's like, they're coming around it. It's just, you can't get it that way from here. And there's got to be a dance between creative and risk taking and safety and stability and certainty. There's got to be that, and that's the way adult thinks. A child doesn't think. It's like, oh, let's a 16-year-old or 15-year-old boy, let's take, or girl, let's just go ahead, my parents on watch, and I want to go out and have fun. I'm going to go out, nightclubbing, and they do, because the parents don't have an adult language or have not grown that kid into a sequence of responsibilities to saying, you go out and you steal mom's car at 14. Mom's got to be paying attention instead of, like tiptoeing around the 14-year-old who is now running the house. Just saying. We have a 14-year-old in the White House.
Certainly, it certainly does appear that way with the really adolescent use of language that is coming in every single tweet and at every rally and even every White House interview. Rarely does it seem like an adult is speaking to us.
Okay, so let's use adult language here for the last, for the next few minutes here, so that at least somebody out there in the universe is going to get a piece of this, which is, here's what respect for others looks like. Do you see that, how clean I started that sentence?
Right.
Here's what respect for others looks like. Here's what the challenge is for the city of Baltimore in this certain area. Not, have you seen the pictures? Have you seen the pictures is me doing a flip book for a elementary school kid or a middle school kid. There's pictures in the book. Why do some text don't have any pictures in the book? Because they're accelerating on knowledge and information, and the picture could be distracting or not needed for the reader. I don't need a picture. Just use your words to describe the picture. Paint the picture for me in words. Don't use a picture. When do we use picture? The more pictures is the younger it gets.
That's very true.
So if the Mueller report would have had pictures in it, more people would have read it.
Wow. There's an epiphany.
You put pictures in it. Here's a person in a car. Here's another person in a car. This person says something. This person says something back. That is two people talking in the language of obstruction. Can you see what was missed by the well-meaning half adults that were working in the Mueller hearings? They were not painting the picture.
No. All the congressmen were going for sound bites and trying to, proportionalize a point, and Mueller was trying to stay within the four corners of his report and not embellish.
The answer is that all of the questions needed to be framed in pictures.
Yeah.
Just frame the picture. Oh my gosh, the look on your faces go like, oh, that's what truth would have looked like. That's what truth looks like. Truth looks like is that the person's got to see. Rat infested is a picture.
Right.
He's speaking in a picture. Who works with pictures? People that don't use words as much. They use more pictures.
It's easy for people's brains to latch on to, and it's almost like little scientific fact that I happen to know is your hemoglobin in your blood will attach carbon monoxide. It will suck it up a lot faster, even if oxygen is in the air. That's why when you have a car that's running in a closed garage, or you have a gas furnace that is broken and puts carbon monoxide into the air, that's why your body, it's so dangerous to your body and you can die from it so quickly. So to me, it's like the masses of people out there are kind of like hemoglobin, and they are attaching on to the easiest thing that they can grab, not where truth is.
Great metaphor. I mean, as a biology person, that metaphor is outstanding, because the carbon molecule, I want to go explain it, right? The carbon molecule has oxygen, and that makes it more attractive, and a picture is going to pull that thing and going to stick an imprint. And it is when our brain is in distress and it's trying to fight through or sort through information, it doesn't want to take the time as an adult would take the time to breathe the oxygen. It just wants, to do this. It doesn't want to take the time to have a full meal. It wants to have a snack. It doesn't take the time to, to eat healthy food. It wants the comfort food instead. It's crazy. Anyways,
well,
so again, the language of the adult would need to lean on what does integrity look like, what does fairness look like, what does mutual respect look like. See, start the sentence with a word that you can build around that is going to be able to paint the picture of. And notice I'm using the phrase "what would look like," because this whole podcast, the whole idea of the work that I do is, how do you speak better language, to people? Listen, if my 12-year-old, soon to be 13-year-old, wants to give me a power over pushback, I need to be a compassionate parent. I don't need to be a person that has a middle school narrative and throw that back at him just to get him in line.
Yeah, push back exactly what he gives you. It's, what is that, the old cliche, two wrongs don't make a right, right?
Right. That's a part of it too. Yep, that is definitely a part of it too. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what all of the candidates are going to do. Obviously, Biden and Warner and Sanders and Kamala Harris and all the ones that are in the place that they are trying to get things to stick. There's times to do messaging that is in alignment with what is going to be stickiest, to say this person's an adult I can trust. So,
well, I can't wait to see that develop, and I unfortunately, I suspect, and I guess you could say I have a little doubt and skepticism, Bill, but I would suspect that we're going to see some more tragic use of language in some of these debates, as well, hopefully, as some bright moments of adult use of language, that skilled use of language. So I look forward to that. we'll probably have some things to talk about upcoming after some more debates.
Absolutely, Tom. Thanks a million, and looking forward to the next one. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.